let's get started. Sara, thank you so much for joining me today on Jewels of the Trade. I so appreciate you offering to do this interview. I'm very excited. Can you go ahead and just tell us about you and what you do and just everything? Give us a little background.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to make sure that I turn on Do Not Disturb. I just
I had to do
realized
that
because
too.
most of what I do is on social media. So that's
Oh, I can't wait to hear all about that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I am a professional opera singer, and I am also the owner, curator, president of Songbird Sara Jewelry, which specializes in fine estate jewelry, mostly vintage and antique. But if something that's modern estate just really takes my breath away, I definitely bring it on. So, yeah, I started the business technically like 3 years ago. And then when the pandemic hit and everything changed with the performing arts industry and all the gigs were canceled and everything kind of just stopped, I had the opportunity to really focus on growing the business, get really intentional
Was
about
opera your main thing and jewelry was kind of like a side hustle?
yes, and I have had a couple resale businesses throughout my professional singing career because I love business. I love like that entrepreneurial thing, and also being a freelance musician is not like a you don't have steady you can't depend on like a steady stream of income. You could have a great month and then an empty month, an amazing year and then a year that's not as good. So I've always loved having something else, just, for that sense of security, and then also to kind of exercise a different part of my brain. I've always loved fashion resale. And then jewelry was like always my biggest love within the fashion sphere. And I finally like took the leap 3 years ago and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
Was
I'm gonna
your
start buying
start?
expensive things.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. Was
Yeah.
your start in the jewelry industry? Was it as an entrepreneur or did you work for someone first?
It was always as an entrepreneur. I spent maybe a decade just being obsessed with antique jewelry, like just doing all this research in my spare time. I think it's difficult when you're a professional creative to have hobbies, because and even as I
Because they
say
turn into
this,
jobs.
they turn into jobs. Even as I say this, I'm like, oh, I failed at that too. I turned it into a job.
Yep.
But for a while, that was like a really nice hobby of mine to like come home from rehearsal and just like read the jewelry forums, read books on antiques, look at beautiful things, and like enjoy an art form that wasn't my job. Um, and of course, I turned it into my job. But I just, did like a ton of just research for myself and amassed all of this information. And then when I would be on the road, I would go into antique stores or go into yeah, pawn shop or some kind of estate jewelry place and see things and know the market and know that I could still sell it at a competitive price and like all of these things. But then balancing that with the fact that as a freelance opera singer, I don't have like tons of money to just buy jewelry for myself every day. So it kind of came from like, I know all of these things, this is something I'm really passionate about. Also, if I can buy jewelry for other people, then I can shop for jewelry nonstop, but you know, not not bankrupt myself.
Do you have your own collection?
I do. I do have my own collection, and it's grown since I have started my site, but I try and be really good about like letting something go if I bring something else in. Otherwise, it could totally get out of control.
That's a
It could
really
be
good
insane.
philosophy. It's so hard to do though.
It's so hard to do. And like the other thing about my business is that I only bring things onto my site that I would be really, really proud and really excited to own myself. So everything that I source is something that I love and something that I would love to own, but it's a business, so
So you have to let it
I have
go.
to let it go.
That's
So
so
it's
heartbreaking.
yeah, it is. But then as I've grown the business, I think that the people who follow me, the people who shop from my collection do so because they've gotten to know my taste and they trust my eye. And, there are so many amazing vendors out there. It really kind of comes down to finding someone who has like a similar taste that you have, and then you trust that the things that they love are things that you'll love.
Beautifully said. No, you're absolutely right. So where are you located and how do people shop from you?
So my business is entirely online. My website is called Songbird Sara Antique Jewelry, and it's linked to my Instagram, which is at Songbird Sara Jewelry. And yeah, it's a totally online presence. My husband and I, both professional opera singers, have been full-time RV dwellers for, I think, going on 4 years now. Yeah. So before COVID, we would just drag our home from contract to contract. An opera contract is like 1 month to 2 months. And if we had to travel overseas, we just, put the camper in storage. So we have crossed the country like multiple, like I think almost 3 complete times since we got the camper. And before COVID, we we were everywhere, which really helped me build up my connections within the jewelry community and find the wholesalers who I loved working with and meet people who wanted to consign their collections with me and all sorts of things like that. So now we're in Georgia, just waiting it out, but we don't have like a technical home base. It's kind of just wherever we need to be.
Wow, that is so cool. And then how long have your husband and you been doing this together? How did you guys meet?
We met singing opera. We were just like work buddies for a while before we started dating, and we met in Southern Illinois at a really small and random summer festival that we both did, um, and we so yeah, like 4 years ago we decided to buy the camper because we were just so tired of like living in suitcases and like being in a different Airbnb or hotel room, like all the time. So yeah, we bought the camper and we haven't looked back. It's been really great, and I think that travel aspect has really helped and informed my jewelry business. So I think that that really is part of it. That the fact that like we've been in so many major cities and small towns, I've gotten to get the feel of like what kinds of vintage and antique pieces are in different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And then we're able to stay there for long enough for me to really make those personal connections has been key.
That's amazing. So you are very like indwelt in this industry and connected and meeting and talking to people constantly. That makes a lot of sense. You have like a stellar web presence.
Thank you.
How has like Instagram and social media and everything helped influence your business?
Yeah. So when I first decided to start the business, I had 1,000 followers, and it was like my personal Instagram that I was never on. And I have to say, I was like a little bit resistant to learning about Instagram. Like, I was like, is this really going to be a thing? Like, is
Been
this
there.
like, do I have to? Like, this seems like a lot of like, it seems like there's a steep learning curve. And I just like was not, yeah, I was just like, oh gosh, this is going to be so hard. So I transitioned my personal Instagram to be just my jewelry business Instagram. Started with like 1,000 of people who knew me. And then slowly started building it. And now I am at 9,400. I'm almost at 10,000.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and when the pandemic hit, that's when I got like really, really serious. And I think my following grew from like 3 or 4 thousand to where it is right now, just in the
Oh
past year.
wow. It almost
Yeah,
tripled
yeah,
just in the past year then.
just in the past year. So really, it's about making those personal connections. And I think there's a difference between growing an Instagram as a brand and growing it as an influencer. So a lot of what you hear out there is like, to be an influencer, like go viral, like do all these things. But to be a brand is different because you want to connect with the people who are going to be engaged followers. They like actually are interested in what you're doing, and they're more they're more involved. So to do that, I just really got involved in the jewelry community, and I like to interact as a jewelry lover, not as a brand. So yeah, I think that's the main thing, that like if I were Target, or like, if I were Tiffany's, or if I were like, a huge brand, I might be doing it differently. But because
Yeah.
it's me and it's my personality and it's my eye and my integrity that I am marketing, essentially, I just interact as myself, enjoy other people's collections because I actually really enjoy other people's collections.
Is that really your only marketing, or do you
Yeah.
do some kind of other advertising? Wow, really?
It's all organic. So
Wow.
I have started dabbling in Facebook ads within like the past month or so. To be honest, it's very intimidating and I might have to hire someone because it's like its own thing, and I'm like, there's a lot. So I have not been like extremely involved in like ads or any kind of like external marketing thing. It's My website says that 98% of my website traffic comes from Instagram.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Do you do you take advantage of Instagram's like boosting? Do they still call it boosting? Actually, I
I
don't even
actually
know.
haven't.
Really? So
Yeah.
is it are you reaching out to people directly? Is it hashtags? Like what do you think it is that's really driving so many followers to your page?
Hashtags are big.
Yeah.
I think it's truly just interacting with people in a real way. Like,
Yeah.
and that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. Um, but I think it comes through because I think it, like when I'm online, like following the hashtags that I'm following, it's like to truly see things that I'm interested in. Like I love to follow like family heirloom hashtag, or like hashtag old mine cut, hashtag old European cut, hashtag I always follow like engagement rings, like, I said yes, or like hashtag engage, you know what I mean? So I truly want to see the pieces that people are showing off, that people are interested in, and then I comment on the things that I like because I am legitimately interested in people's collections. So I think it's truly just like I like people's collections. I comment, we get into a little conversation. If they go to my page, they usually see that it's something that they might be interested in, and that's it. So it is like a ton of work, but it's also something that I would probably be doing anyway. Like it's not like, I mean, sure, yes, it's to like build up my business following, but it's authentic to who I am and what I think about these pieces.
Wow, that is awesome. Are most of these people that you're interacting with, are they people that you've met or might meet? Like, are they in the industry, or is it just
Sometimes.
international? Is it customers? Like, is it just everybody?
It's just everybody. A friend of mine is an opera director, and she has a huge following on the Chinese social media platform Weibo. And she posted about me there because her followers are really interested in the intersection of the opera world and, the other things that we do. So I got
That's
all these
hilarious.
amazing followers from her post all over the world who
Wow.
are, yeah, who were just interested in my story and interested in the jewelry, but also the opera aspect of it.
Is this a thing? I'll admit you're not the only opera singer in the jewelry industry that I've met. Is there this whole world that we don't know about of opera jewelry people?
I think, I mean, I know what you mean because I've seen like a lot of like ballet,
Yeah.
opera, theater. I think that there's something about like the history and the romance and the
Yeah.
glamour of it. Like, as an opera singer, you have the opportunity, usually, in normal times, you have the opportunity to get a little more dressed up on a regular basis than the average person. So there's like the opportunity to wear pieces that, like, I mean, I'm wearing all the pieces right now and like in a sweater and leggings. But yeah, I think, there are more opportunities for like ultra glam. So we might kind of gravitate toward that more than other people. And then also just learning about history. Like, I always love to draw the parallel between like when was this piece made, what music, what operas were premiering during that time, what
Oh,
were
wow.
the fashions like what was the whole scene when this piece was made, and how does that intersect with the other areas of art
That sounds
that are interesting to
so
me.
fascinating. I'm a big podcast person because I drive a
Yeah,
lot. And that's honestly, if there was a podcast like that, I would totally listen to because I love history too. And
yeah,
as a dancer, like I love all things art. And so if there was kind of a way to apply like because we talk about history a lot in jewelry, Art
yeah,
Deco and Edwardian and everything. But if there was something more a story that you could write that puts you into that time period realistically, like you're
yes,
saying with what operas are playing and stuff. I mean, I think that would actually captivate a lot of people even beyond
right.
jewelry.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's also been a cool, like, intersection where a lot of the people, like a lot of my opera colleagues who follow me, um, are really fascinated by antique jewelry, and they hadn't really
Wow.
thought about it before. But then
Yeah.
once
But it's an
they
art.
kind of, it's an art. And once they put it into context, they're like, oh wow, like I could, I could own a piece of jewelry that, you know, was made when my favorite opera premiered. Like, how cool is that to like hold that representation in my hand?
That is really, really cool. That is really cool. So, what is your favorite era, I guess, for antique jewelry?
That's so hard. So Art Deco was like how I got in there. Like, that was like my first taste, and I was like all about it. So it'll always be really like, close to my heart. I think Edwardian is my favorite era. Like Belle Epoque, Edwardian, like garland style. Also, it spans like, late Victorian through Edwardian. Like, it's a, you know, that whole um turn of the century. And I love that you can have old mine cuts and old European cuts, and they're just, yeah, I think that's my favorite. But I will always love Art Deco. And then I've been really into retro, like 1940s
Oh,
lately,
yeah.
which is not something that I had really thought about until I really got in there and started sourcing. And then all of a sudden you realize, my gosh, there are like endless beautiful things to be obsessed with.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I say like I don't deal with Georgian jewelry very often. I love to look at it, but it's not my personal aesthetic, so I haven't learned as much about it as I have about the eras that like really get me. So I think that goes back to what I was saying before about like finding like finding specific people for the specific things that like really speak to you. Like if someone came to me and they said, I'm looking for like this Georgian piece, I would refer them to someone else who like really was
Wow.
like in that world. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. Do you interact with retailers, like brick and mortar
Yeah.
retailers? Okay.
Yes, actually have a couple like brick and mortar friends who, you know, sometimes if something isn't moving for me, we'll do like a nice little trade or, you know, so it is nice to like to have like colleagues who you can like kind of help out. Sometimes it's just a matter
Definitely.
of like getting something in front of the right eyes. And if
Hmm.
something has been on my website for a really long time and people are just getting tired of seeing it, it's really nice to have those colleagues so I can be like, do you want to try this? And almost always it sells for them really fast. So it
That's
really is just a
wonderful.
matter of like,
Oh, that's so nice. You know, the for so long the jewelry industry was very secretive. And
yeah,
you know, there wasn't as much networking or interaction because everybody wanted to keep their trade secrets to themselves. And now I feel like really recently we're seeing so much more networking and connecting between retailers and other retailers and
yeah.
retailers and e-tailers and wholesalers. And it's interesting how it's really gone a completely drastic different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think because of the pandemic, like we're realizing that the internet, I mean, the world is small. And like,
Yeah.
especially with antiques, it there could be something where there's only like one or two of them out there. So if you can like, you know, get through your network, you have, you know, you have more of a
Yeah.
chance of making that sale and finding that thing for that customer when you work together.
Absolutely. Has sourcing been troublesome for you during the pandemic or unaffected?
Thankfully I made a lot of connections before. So I have, you know, people who I trust, who know my taste, I know their taste. If I'm looking for something, I can reach out. Um, and I have actually made some great new connections in the area. There's a huge antique scene here. So sometimes it's a matter of like the antiques are here, but the eyes aren't. Like the foot traffic has dwindled, so I've been able to work with some great antique dealers to, you know, buy in bulk, help them out, they help me out. It's a great
Wow.
situation.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you do any wholesale? Do you ever sell directly to retailers?
I don't, and I don't know if I see my business going that way because I think what I love most is like that matchmaking element of it, like that dealing with the consumer, helping them find that perfect thing. I love like seeing it live with them in their lives, and I think I would miss that if, you know, if I was just a
Yeah.
middleman. I would like want to know where it went and be like, "Are you taking care of my babies?"
I totally understand. I did jewelry design for a retailer for many years, and I'd be somewhere random. I'd be getting coffee, and my barista would be wearing one of the rings I designed, and I'd be like,
Yes.
"Hey, I
Yes.
know that ring.
That's mine.
Yeah, I made
Yeah.
that."
I love that personal element of it. And jewelry is so personal that it's like I don't know, it's a very intimate thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes, you know, I mean, we're so used to jewelry like being marketed in the romantic sense, but most of my clients are women who are buying jewelry for themselves and they buy it to celebrate like the coolest things. Like, you know, like doing a big deal in their job or I've done a lot of divorce rings and things
That's a
that are like
thing.
truly personal and so I
Yeah.
love being a part of that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I think of course, I've been in the industry, but I've bought all my own jewelry.
Yeah.
I think my husband, because we've been married almost 6 years, but I've been in the industry longer than that. And so when it was time to get married, he was like, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, don't pick out my ring.
I know.
You're forbidden. But
I
I've
know.
thought before, like, even if I didn't work in jewelry, I still think I would have wanted to pick it out. Of course I designed mine, but like, I think I would have wanted to choose and not be given,
Right.
And it's definitely, there's so many options now, and women are so I guess connected to those options. Like, it's not just a commercial on TV anymore.
Right.
There's so much more exposure to the different designs and styles of jewelry, and I think it's so accessible. And so why would you I would never let my husband pick out my clothes.
I know.
Especially not if my clothes are $4,000.
I know.
Like a piece
and
of
like,
jewelry.
if you're just going to get one, like,
yes, you have to keep this for the rest of your life.
So I got really, really lucky. When we got engaged, my husband, my, then boyfriend, didn't know that like this was my obsession, right? So that's already terrifying. I hadn't started the business yet, but I was like on the verge of starting the business. So I had like a whole list of things, of engagement rings that I loved, that I thought, okay, and they were all antique. The price on this is fair. Like I had done all the market research. Like, I was like, this is a good option. Like, the price is fair. I love what this is. This is exactly what I want. And there was like, tons and tons of options. But in my mind, I wasn't even thinking about engagement for myself. I was like, if I start, when I first started the business, I thought maybe I would do like a personal shopping concierge thing for people who were looking for an engagement ring, and I would just serve as a personal shopper. So all of these pieces were in a folder. I was just thinking, like, this is like a good dossier of like really good options for when I get a client who's looking for a beautiful engagement ring. And I loved all of them because, I was like, if I love them, someone else will. So my husband asked our mutual friend, he was like, I want to propose and I want it to be a surprise. And my friend was like, okay, well, you should know, like, Sara, like, knows about this stuff. Like, she knows a lot about this stuff. And, you can't just buy her any ring. Like, she has specific taste. So she hacked into my computer. Not like hacker style, but she was like, hey, Sara, like, I need to check something on your computer, and like, got in there and found my folder and sent him all the options. So he did surprise me.
Let me see.
Surprised me. So it's old mine cuts surrounding an antique cushion. I also have very small fingers. I have a size 4 finger. But yeah, they're all old mine cushions, and it was like exactly what I wanted. And he was like, thank God our friend knew that you had this list, because I never would have, like, it's the last thing I would have thought of. Like, how do you think of that? So I really got lucky. But honestly, I would have been happy with anything vintage. Like, that was my thing. Like, I was like, honestly, like, as long as it's vintage or antique, I will be happy with it. I do see like a situation where, like, if I got like, I don't know, a princess cut, I would be like, we gotta take this back.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, if I got a princess cut, I probably would too.
I'd be like, because it's just not me. It's just not me.
Right. Right.
Yeah. No shade to princess cuts. I just think it's just not it's too modern. It's too modern for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like really your love for the vintage jewelry is beyond the design. It's really the sentimentality and the history and the meaning behind it. And so, I think like vintage jewelry, just like any other jewelry, you're going to have this vast array of designs and concepts. And, on your website and on your Instagram, you have some drastically different, drastically unique designs. And they're vintage, they're beautiful, they're amazing, but sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that.
Right.
I wouldn't have pictured that, if you said, oh, a vintage X ring, Y ring.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's so many options. So I always tell people, like, if you are thinking of getting engaged, if you think that it's going to be a surprise or like something that you're not involved in, like, be very explicit about what it is you want.
Yes.
Even if it's not to your partner, like, tell your mom, tell your friends, tell their friends, like, do a Pinterest board, involve
That's
everyone on the
something.
Pinterest
Yeah,
board.
in retail, when we would have a man come in who's, just has no idea, oh, I want to get my girlfriend a ring, but I don't know what
Yeah.
to get her. We would say, does she have Pinterest? And of course he's like, I don't know. So we'd have to Pinterest stalk his girlfriend right there in the store
Yeah.
to
Right.
find her profile and see what she likes. And it worked.
Yes.
It was effective, but
Yeah.
it's definitely, you have to have it somewhere because there's just too many options and it's too
Right.
easy to get it wrong.
I mean, it's funny to think too, like, these are vintage rings, so there have always been many options. But for some time, the prevailing option were like a Tiffany style solitaire or a halo. And like those were the options.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is it that you really look for when you're curating estate pieces or vintage pieces? Like, how do you
Yeah.
choose these magnificent, pieces that you come across?
I first and foremost look for old cut diamonds. So like that's like always where my radar is. I always keep a loop in my purse. I have a great little one that has like an LED light on it. So if you're in an antique
That's
store, which
cool.
like are always so dimly lit, you you can like check that out. And like even even with like the tiny diamonds, like there's so much that can be learned from that. So having a loop is really key because sometimes the diamond is too small for you to see what the cut is, with the naked eye, but then you get in there with a loop and you can see that culet and you can see those chunky facets and you're like, okay, yes, go on. Um,
Do you
and
always source in person? Do you always have to hold the piece before you buy?
no, I do source online, but from people I trust.
Yes. Yeah. Makes a
So,
huge difference.
that's like, because I mean, I think there's a lot of misrepresentation of vintage and antique pieces, and I don't think that I think for the most part, it's just that people don't know any better. It's
Sure.
not like
Sure.
most people are good. Most people aren't trying
Yeah.
to like,
They're not
defraud you, but like,
malicious.
yeah, but yeah, sometimes you just really have to get in there and look. And also with antique pieces, like diamonds can be chipped. Like that happens a lot. And I think a lot of people might not think about it. I think if you're
Sure.
not if you're, for example, you're selling your great aunt's estate pieces and you're not getting in there with a loop and you don't know that diamonds can be chipped or can have abrasions, it might not be something that you disclose. So, it's like there's always that risk. And I do always prefer to look in person, but I have people who I do trust,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes you just
When
have a feeling about something.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. When you're
Yeah.
sourcing, do you have certain standards for condition or have you been known to maybe buy and then have it repaired by a
It
jeweler?
depends on the piece. There are certain things like, first of all, if we're dealing with vintage and antique, a little bit of wear is to be expected. Like, people aren't, or I'm not married to the idea of a perfect piece if it's 100 years old, because I feel like maybe some chips to the enamel or like some little, dents, like the patina, like that's all part of the
Mhm.
charm of the piece. If it's a missing stone, yes, I will definitely have my jeweler just replace that. I have a great gemologist who knows how like specific I am. So I really trust him. He did this beautiful repair for me. I got a vintage French cut sapphire eternity band, and it was missing one of the French cut baguettes. And they were natural and they were beautiful, and he perfectly matched and cut and repaired that like perfect baguette for me, and I don't even know where the replacement is, and like, that's perfect. Like I love that. So yes, I will definitely do that. It took me a while to find a bench who I trusted to do those
Right.
things, because repairing vintage and antique is it's a different sort of thing.
Yes.
So now I have people who know, like, don't polish it, don't polish it,
Yeah.
like, don't. um, or because I'm dealing with a lot of things that like need a laser welder, they have to be taken out, or like people who understand like what it is I want, and understand that my goal is not to make it look new, but just to fix just that one thing that needs to be fixed, and like maintain as much of the original state as possible without, a missing stone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's good. And it's good to have a network of people that you trust. And
Yeah.
jewelers are always so smart about everything. The people who actually physically work with it
Yeah.
with their hands, I love to just listen to
I do
jewelers because
too.
there's always so much that they know that like you won't find it in a book. You won't find it from a salesperson. You won't find it in a
Yeah.
podcast. Like unless you're talking to a person who puts their hands on the metal, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's definitely, I'm sure that you can glean more information and learn more, and it's probably good for them too. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And the
that's really
fun
great.
thing is, like, when you find people who are passionate about what they do, they love talking about it just as much as I love listening, So
Yeah.
it doesn't feel, it feels like it's a fun experience for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially with jewelry.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody loves to talk about jewelry. And when I worked in retail, that was something, we had this, like, it was like a bus that took people from the retirement home to the casino, but they would always want to stop at the jewelry store on the way to the casino, and they'd walk in and they'd just spend an hour. We'd like make them coffee, and they
Yeah.
just wanted to talk about jewelry that they'd had and jewelry that they'd lost and bought and almost bought and passed down and inherited and this and that.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, it was such a great way to learn about people and their lives and history and the times that they had lived in. And it was just so natural and comfortable. And everybody just loved it. I mean, that's one of
Yeah.
the many things that's so great about jewelry, is really connecting people over the generations.
Yes. And that, like, that is truly it in a nutshell. Like, you learn so much about someone by asking about their collection. Like,
Yeah.
that's a whole life story
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
Because people do buy jewelry for nothing, or they might say they do, but I would say that usually there is a story. There's
Yes.
usually a reason, or it is a symbol of something. Or even if they didn't buy it with a certain intent, they bought it and then something happened, and then
Right.
somebody else connected with it and they built a story around that. And
Yeah.
so it's even unexpected, I think, when you buy a piece of jewelry, just how much impact it's going to have on your story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really true.
So, and I also wanted to ask, I wanted to know more about the opera thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to know more about, well, your husband does opera. Does he do jewelry with you?
No, he doesn't. He is extremely supportive, and he always notices now. Like, he'll be like, "Is that new?" And I'll be
You've
like,
trained him.
"Yeah." And I'll always be like, "It's for the store. I'm just wearing it until
But
it
he
sells."
knows what you like. So he's like, mm-mm.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But no, he's a full-time professional opera singer. He's what's called a Helden tenor, which is a dramatic tenor. He does a lot of Wagner and Strauss and like big stuff, like big orchestras. And it
Very cool.
is a pretty rare voice type, even within, the opera
That's
world. So
exciting.
yeah, so he's been very fortunate to still have some
Yeah.
work. He's
He
been in
hasn't
Europe.
slowed down at all, I
He's
guess.
slowed down a lot,
Oh,
but so everything in America has been canceled for a long time, it seems.
yeah.
But he still has European contracts. He was in Rome, he was in Oslo.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
most of the time that he was gone was spent in quarantine. But
Sure.
it's been really, really fortunate that he has still been able to perform.
Yeah.
mostly virtually, without audiences, but still, it's amazing.
Still. And I know they've been doing, my sister is much younger than me, so she's real hip, and she watches the bands and I don't know what's going on in the world. Like, I just found out about Justin Bieber, and I heard about this lady named Cardi B the other day. I don't know who
like
that is.
you learned about their existence. I was like, what happened with Justin Bieber?
No, like, I learned that they are people.
There are people.
But when my sister had come to stay with me during COVID, and she would watch on the TV concerts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, what? But apparently it was very prevalent. There were a lot of people doing virtual performances, which is reasonable, because then they can still interact and they're still live, and people can chat, get in chat rooms, I guess. I don't know, but it seems nice to not be around the sweaty people, at a concert.
Yes, you can watch from your couch.
Yeah.
Yes. But in terms of us performing together these days, 3 months ago, I did an online shoppable concert. So I did it on Instagram Live, and it was my husband played piano. He's also a great piano player. So we performed, and then between numbers, I just talked about the jewelry that I was wearing. All of it was available in my shop, and we're putting together another one of those. I don't know if it'll be live, because I want to be able to show the jewelry in more detail, and it's tough with camera setups, but just that kind of television shopping and concert performance combined was really fun. And yes, in that way, I put my husband to work for the family business.
That's awesome. Do you think that you'll go back to doing opera full time when things go back to normal?
I hope so. But I don't know that I would call either thing full-time or side hustle. I've kind of been thinking about it the way mainstream entertainers do, the way pop singers do. If you look at Rihanna, she huge performing artist, also one of the most successful fashion entrepreneurs in the world. And the fact that they're all under that same, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make a Rihanna joke. They're all under that same umbrella. That just came to me. I'm I can't believe I didn't think of that before. Ella. But that is Rihanna, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It better be, for the sake of the joke. But it was all under that umbrella, and it was all of that personal branding informed and grew other aspects of her brand and of her career. So I've kind of been thinking of it in that way, that it's not.
You want to be like Rihanna?
Yes, I want to be like. I do want to be like Rihanna.
Of course you do.
Yeah, who wouldn't? But you see that in other aspects of the performing arts too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think in the classical world, we've always thought all of your money should come from performing. But if we look at movie stars and TV stars and pop singers, not all of their money comes from performing. Right. A lot of it comes from their endorsements and their shoe line and their perfume brand and their royalties and all of that. So I've kind of just been thinking of it as this is just all part of my brand.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I love it. And I think that really sets you apart. I think it helps you stand out as something different. People are really fascinated. I even told my husband, I said, I'm going to talk to a girl who sells jewelry and she's an opera singer. And he was like, I want to talk to her. Yeah, it's appealing. It's exciting. And it's damn good marketing. It really is. And being so passionate that you are about both of them, that helps too. I mean, I think anything that's gonna say I'm different, I'm doing something unusual. I always compare Kohl's. Was it Kohl's a few years ago had started putting Aldi's inside of their stores? You have all these businesses that are realizing that just being known for one thing isn't really enough. Right. And so you have a lot of different business types joining forces, and people and brands being very dichotomous. I was seeing today, there's a local girl who's a florist. And if you go to her florist website, she's also an artist and a photographer, and it's all under the same umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all the same thing. And so I think, people want to connect with people. People don't want to connect with businesses. They don't want to connect with
Right.
brands. So they want to find someone who is an individual, who has their own thoughts and their own unique experiences. And especially if you're a shopper on Instagram,
Yeah.
you don't care what the name of the business is or what their mission statement is. You want to watch the person behind
Right.
the Instagram talking and sharing about stuff beyond whatever it is that they're selling. Like selling now, I think, is even less about putting product in front of people. It's more about giving and connecting. And then when they're ready and they want something, they'll come to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I think, especially now, like people really want to work with small businesses, which I appreciate so much. And they want to feel that like they want to know where their money's going. And I
Yeah.
understand that, you
Yeah,
know?
I do too.
Yeah.
And I think there's, with the transparency now, you have a lot of consumers, especially like generationally. I think you can see a difference where certain groups of consumers, they vote with their dollar.
Yeah.
They want full transparency. They want to know the company's policies, how they treat their employees, what type of charities are they involved with. That is the most important thing, more important above and beyond the product,
Yeah,
is how
absolutely.
the company operates. And and I've tended to be that way. If I go to a business and they say, we love working here, our boss treats us so great, he gives us bonuses, da, 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 I'm gonna shop there again. If I go
Yeah.
somewhere and they're like, man, I'm working a 15-hour shift, my kids are at home, my feet hurt, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah. And I think also the way, especially in jewelry, the business customer interaction, that expectation is different now. So like it used to be that like kind of an aloofness or like a little bit of snobbery was
Snooty,
something
yeah.
people would pay extra for.
Sure.
Like that was
Sure,
like
sure.
part of the draw. Um,
Yeah.
I never found that attractive as a
Right.
consumer. Um,
Right.
so I try and be the kind of business that I would want to shop from. I don't feel comfortable like I like to window shop and like get an idea of the market. So I would never make my prices a secret. Because that's something that I don't enjoy as a consumer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so I just think about it that way. Like if I were shopping from my business, what would
Hmm.
make this a comfortable, accepting, I never want someone to be afraid to window shop for something because they think they can't afford it. Like we should all be able to just check the prices on things
Yeah.
without feeling judged or without feeling embarrassed.
Yes. And understanding value is a very important part of the purchasing process. And I think a lack of transparency, or if a company is not representing value and why
Right.
it's valued that way, to me that's kind of a red flag. And I think I've grown up in a very suspicious world
Mhm.
where I'm very suspicious of people. I'm very suspicious of advertising. And
Yeah.
I feel like everybody that I know doesn't really naturally trust people. You have to earn that trust. And with jewelry, because of how sentimental it is, trust is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't trust your vendor, you don't trust the store that you're shopping at, you're
Yeah.
probably not going to buy.
Right. Or you will buy, and every time you wear it, you get a weird feeling.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. And then you end up not wearing it or selling it or trying to
Right.
return it or yeah,
Yeah.
and then it's not the amazing experience that jewelry should be.
That it should be. Yeah.
I feel very passionate about that.
I know. And I think it really, like, it just comes from also loving jewelry. Like,
Hmm.
it's not just a job, it's also like an interest.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And it's interesting. I never realized until I started working in jewelry just how complex the industry really is, because you have like you definitely have the history side of it. You love history. There's a science side of it. There's a
Yes.
fashion side of it. I mean, there's like wherever you're coming from, whatever your background is, if
Yeah.
you're more artistic, I mean, whatever it is, like you're going to be drawn to those aspects of the jewelry world. And you
Yeah.
really feel that. It's sad not being able to go to trade shows right now, but when we could go to trade shows, it was this amazing like camaraderie that you felt with people who were connecting with different aspects of the industry for the same reasons that you do. And
Yeah.
I wish that that was something that other industries could have, because I feel sad for people who don't have
Yeah.
that.
No, it really is like this amazing meeting of the minds. And I think it
Hmm.
became really clear when I spent a couple months in New York and connected with like all of the different bench jewelers in the jewelry district. And just knowing that
Yeah.
everyone has a very specific specialty, and like they're the guy in that basement that you go to for that thing, and then like you get that, and then they tell you the other guy that you go to, you run off to another basement, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, you do your thing. And like by the time the piece is complete, and I wasn't having pieces built, you know, from the ground up, these were just repairs, but like, you know, you go to the specific guy who like deals in the old cut diamonds, and you find that diamond, and then you take it to the setter, and then you take it to the polisher, and then all of these people have like come together in this wonderful collaborative way for this final product. And that was
Yeah,
just such a fascinating and
it's
such a
unique.
fun experience.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I've been to New York, but not for jewelry, so I haven't actually experienced like the jewelry district. But I would, if I were gonna go back to New York,
Yeah,
that's
it
what I'd want to
was
go for.
yeah, it was really cool. I could spend hours, you know,
Yeah.
just running around the basement.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, so it sounds like hopefully, Sarah, you're wanting to get back into opera. Does that mean less for jewelry? I mean, I know that you don't really see one as more than the other, or one as more of a job. I mean, I know that you really view them equally, but
Yeah.
for the future of Songbird Sarah jewelry, I mean, how do you really see that
I
going?
think that my ability to perform more will influence the jewelry business in an amazing way. So I'm really, really hoping soon, when it's safe, when we're able to have a lot of European, like spend a lot of time in Europe. So that will enable me to source things from Europe, which will just open up so many different
Oh
opportunities I'm
yeah.
really excited about. And then, you know, right now, most of my social media presence is jewelry because, you know, no one wants to hear me like practice on my keyboard. Or maybe they do. Maybe I need to do more of those.
I
I
do.
don't know. But I miss being able to show like backstage. This is what the rehearsal process is. These are my
Right.
costumes. I think that there will be such an opportunity for like cross promotion and like education about like, this is the opera that I'm working on now. This is a day in the life. These are the costumes. If I were to pair some authentic jewelry from the era, like this is the collection that I would curate. So I think I think the sky's the limit. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of in a holding pattern because everything is being done in a vacuum. But I think once I'm performing again, it's just gonna like, and then I'll be able to
Perfect.
like dress up and like
Huh.
go like wear my
That sounds so
things.
nice.
I know.
Well, Sarah, how can people contact you? How can they shop from you? What do you want people to know about getting in touch with you? And also, do you ever, if somebody has a specific call for something, they're looking for something very specific, can you source that specific thing for them?
Yes, I can. I love doing that. And you know, even if people reach out to me and they say this is what I'm looking for, of course I will try and find it, but if I see that another vendor also has it, I will refer the person that way. So, actually, a great example of that happened last week, months ago. Someone reached out, they were looking for a very specific kind of Victorian bracelet, and it was like shaped like a shoe, like a horseshoe, and then had this really cool, like, horse bit chain going over. I had never seen anything like it before. And she said, you know, this is my white whale. Like, I have been searching for this very specific antique piece. I never saw one until the other day when a jewelry Instagram friend of mine was selling one from her personal collection. And so It worked out perfectly. I
That's crazy.
connected them. She bought it. Everyone was happy. So yes, like if you reach out to me and you're like, this is what I'm looking for, if I can't find it, I will definitely look for someone else, who can.
That is awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Sara, I'm so excited to share this interview, and I'm going to transcribe it and
Yeah.
type up all the
Oh, yeah.
highlights in a blog
And
post.
my information, my
Oh,
contact
yes.
information. I didn't,
Yes. Let's
I just got so
contact you.
excited about that. So my website is songbirdSaraAntiqueJewelry.com. That's Sara without an H. And on my website, I have a great chat feature that goes right to my cell phone. So if you want to ask a question about anything on my website, you just type into that little chat and you're actually talking to me. I get the notification. I can answer any questions, send pictures, all of that fun stuff. So yes, and then Instagram is probably the best way, at Songbird Sara Jewelry, and I'm always in the DMs. I'm always interacting with people. So did I lose you? Oh wait. Let's see. Oh, okay, you're back. You're back.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I didn't want to like X out because I was like, am I going to lose the But we're still recording.
I'm having technical difficulties, but hi, I'm here.
That's fine. I'm surprised my internet held up long enough. But yeah, Instagram is a great way to contact me because I'm always interacting with people that way.
Perfect. So website, Instagram, chat feature, and
Yeah.
Product that's listed on your website or Instagram, or you can find special things for them. And everybody needs to keep an eye out because you're going to start posting some opera stuff, right?
Yes.
You should do the
umbrella. Do more opera stuff.
Like rendition.
I know. Yeah, there's so many options. I need to be better about it, so I'm going to do it.
Yes, I'm so excited. I can't wait to tell my husband because he loves classical music.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Sara, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and
yes, you too.
Soon and sharing this information so that everybody can buy all the things from you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sara. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.